Hey there, everybody. Well, happy Super Bowl Sunday. So, can't wait to see how this game turns out. But before we get to watch that, let's run through our weekly watch list for the week of February 9th. So, on Monday, all coast is clear. Really nothing other than some Fed governor speak that could move the market little bit maybe from time to time, but nothing to be concerned about. Some of the things I would watch on Tuesday are going to be the overall import prices as well as retail sales. This is going to be important because it's going to be for the month of December. So how did holiday shopping actually come in? And then what do we got? Retail sales minus autos. The other thing, while the market is open, business inventories, usually that's not a market mover. And then the data is going to be from November. So I really would kind of take that with a grain of salt. Might not want to be in a position when it drops, but nothing that should rattle the markets one way or the other. Take a look on Wednesday. These are going to be some more of the important numbers. The employment report, the unemployment rate. Is it going to go higher than 4.4%? What's happening with hourly wages? And then hourly wages year over year. So are companies having to spend more money per hour to retain people as well as hire new individuals? Thursday is going to be initial jobless claims, existing home sales. So those are going to be two numbers we're going to want to be very cognizant of. And then Friday, we're going to finish up with CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So essentially, what's happening with inflation? Our cost of goods and services for us here in the States more expensive than it was in the prior month, as well as year over year. Additionally, we have a slew of earnings, a lot of retail names in the space, as well as some of the pharmaceuticals. So we have Coca-Cola, CVS Health, Spotify ought to be a big one. Watch Fiserv as well. This thing really took a nosedive compared to last quarter, where it dropped by over 40%. We also have some of the hotels coming into play, more autos with Ford, Lyft, Robinhood, Shopify. So really retail heavy, right? McDonald's. We had a lot of tech last week, and now we're starting to get more into the consumer side. Other names that I think will be very interesting are going to be Coinbase, okay, Pinterest, as well as DraftKings. Now, finally, one of the things that I'm going to want to make sure that we think through is this week's market opens is not only the earnings piece, but also the overall economic conditions that are going to possibly move the market in one direction or another. Now, for the last 4 days, we saw a precipitous sell-off in both SPY and QQQ. We did get a relief rally bounce on Friday. We'll see if that's actually going to continue to move back to the upside, or do we continue lower? So if I were to take a fib from a pivot high to the pivot low, you will note that where the market rejected on Friday was right in the golden zone, okay, just shy of where my price level was. And I don't know that I would necessarily want to short this, but let's watch and see how the market responds to this on a go-forward basis. So I do like calls if we could hold above 609.27 going into 613.14, which is pretty much slap dab in the middle of the overall golden zone before potentially do we reject. Now, if we could get above 618, then I definitely think 786 is in the cards. And note, 786 lines up right with my price level on the higher time frame. So I'm going to watch this pivot high, pivot low here for QQQ. We are going to save that. I'm going to go and take a look at SPY. Now, SPY has been a lot stronger. So the bounce in this was pretty monumental. When you look at this pivot high to this pivot low, not only did we clear the 50, we cleared the 618, and they pushed all the way up to the 786 into the close. Now, if they can hold above this 618 and use this as a base, which is where they actually bounced it off of on the 4-hour time frame, I definitely think we're going back up to 693.42 and potentially back up to possibly even all-time highs. Now, let's look at what some of the laggards were, and we know it was technology. Apple, on the other hand, has held up very, very strong, and Apple typically will act as more of a defensive stock in the area of tech that money will rotate into. So for this one, I really don't see anything that I'm too passionate about. If you get weakness, I think below 277.01, you could take some puts down to 273. But if we hold this, I would expect us to push up to 281, just like we did almost intraday on Friday. Let's take a look at Google. Overall, little bit of a reject back from the upside here of 332. We did have earnings on Google that were really strong, sold off very, very hard, but had a huge recovery back to the upside. So I really want to look for puts below 319, calls above 325. Until then, I would probably do nothing with this. You could see this, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. It really did nothing. So we need to get above this hourly range to the top side and to the downside to either look for calls or puts. Meta, awful week last week. Even with the bounce, they just kept selling into it, selling into it, selling into it. This one has a pretty decent gap to the downside. I apologize. Yeah, I did say Meta. We're good. Meta. It totally lost all of its earnings beat. So this was the gap to the upside on earnings. Okay. It was here. There was a gap here. Look at this. They gave back all of that earnings beat in a week. Obviously, not holding. So I do like calls above 663, okay, which has been pretty much this 1 hour area box zone. And I do like puts if we get below 653.55. Potentially down to this candle wick, ideally to this supply zone. If we lose 664, we got a gap fill below that I would definitely watch. The one that was selling off all week was Microsoft. Maybe I said that earlier. This thing's just been horrific, and it's just getting destroyed with the overall software stocks that are in fear that AI is going to replace a lot of their capabilities and their technology. So I don't have anything that I would really change from an overall price level perspective. I think you can trade amongst these prices fairly well. Not really concerned. For calls, we got to get above pretty much 402.20, 408, 412 to go to the upside. Let's just take a look and see what we have with overall supply and demand. Everything should line up pretty good, but I am not bullish on this one whatsoever. Yeah, and you can kind of see why, right? I mean, this is just not looking good by any stretch of the imagination. So you really got to get above 402.20, I think, to take some calls to go up to this higher band, possibly this 1 hour reject here to the upside. So could play out, but you got to see that this thing has some momentum because they literally get momentum and then sell into it. Bought into it, I think possibly if, again, overall software is weak, they're probably going to sell into this thing. So do make sure that you get above this 402. And then potentially, right, we do have, a gap on the 1 hour time frame here. You can go ahead and mark that. I'll do it with a purple box. You can see here, it's a lower time frame, but this is an imbalance in liquidity where they will move to the upside. So Microsoft, not looking so hot. Amazon, again, earnings, they did not like the overall AI spend. Huge sell-off. They did recover a piece of it. We do have a gap fill up above, so keep an eye on this. And if we can gain some momentum, possibly back up to 220 if we have a strong market. But right now, we need to get into this gap fill and see that we could hold a 9 EMA. And I would definitely say hold it on a higher time frame. 15 minutes would be pretty good. We are curling up. We did get some buyers stepping in here toward the close, but we need to get above this 211.43 to show that we can move higher. Watch this 50 EMA where it could reject and head lower. So you really do want to make sure that you have a strong market overall. NVIDIA, really, we took this trade, went up 500%. If you stayed in it even longer, you probably got 700% on it. But we caught the NVIDIA call trade right on the market open 3 minutes in. and we caught it on Friday right here as we just dipped below 174.74. We were in the 177.50 calls. It went all the way up to my price target of 187.08. Just massive, massive run. We caught that on the live. Ton of fun. Everybody made money, and winner, winner, chicken dinner. So this one, again, what I would kind of watch for is let's just take a fib, pivot high, pivot low. Let's see if this holds. Where are they rejecting? Right now, it's back below the 618 fib, okay? So look for consolidation here. Does it hold, and do we go lower? Or does it hold, and then when we start to resume back to the upside, you know, into possibly 200? But these semis have been so overbought, but when they come in and buy them, there is just such strength that I definitely would not step in front of this this freight train. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make one change. I'm going to want to say that we got to get above 187, which is Friday's pivot right now, in order to go long to the upside. When we do take a look here, we broke all of these levels, so we have really good demand that we shouldn't be too worried about. This is going to be the other 4-hour level. Can we hold 184.14? Again, confirmation. You can see if we drop below this, we can definitely push all the way back down to 174, 171 and change. And I'm going to go ahead and, yeah, I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to leave them both, right? We got a good band of buyers down here, but if we get some significant selling for whatever the rationalization is, we have a long way that we could come back down all the way to the base of that green candle. AMD did not perform well. Obviously, after earnings, sold off. Huge gap. We did get some buyers that stepped in on Friday. Nothing massive. Again, I really want to see us get out of this consolidation range here. 206 and 209. We get above 209. We could go all the way back up to the top of this gap, bottom of the gap fill, 218.67. But we drop below this. Again, we don't have really any buyers until we get back down here now to the top of this gap fill. So we have gaps all over the place on AMD, and they're going to act as a magnet to pull one way or the other. Palantir, super weak to the downside, right? A lot of selling. They're just combining this again with software stocks, pretty much at a balanced market here. So I do like calls if we can get above 137.59. Watch for this pivot high, and then, you know, we'll move up to 142. To the downside, I really don't like puts per se. I mean, you can grab them here, 134 down to 132, but I'd really rather do the 132 down to 128. It just gives you more room to move and not get wicked back and forth between these price levels. Let's take a look at overall Tesla. I'm going to get rid of this price level. We're consolidating here between 408 and 414. So I do like calls above 414, possibly puts below 408. Let's go ahead and just confirm. Again, you know, we could drop all the way back down to the 397 and change, but you'll see we don't have a lot of overhead supply up top here. So if we can get above these ranges, I do think that there's some room to run to the upside in very low level supply, 30-minute, 45-minute, nothing to be worried about. We're kind of being held up here with only 30-minute demand. So what would concern me is if we break below 408, get a weak market, then we're definitely coming back down here to where the buyers are. A couple of other things. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin really struggled last week. Should we get... Whoop. Apologize for that one. Finger slip. So right now we're sitting at about $71,000. We'll want to see it pushed all the way down to 50 and change. Do they hold this 70,000 range to be able to move higher, or do we just actually start to move back to the downside? So fair amount of buyers here, but also fair amount of sellers to the upside. Just kind of keep this as a proxy for higher risk on, risk off. Again, we have Coin that's going to be announcing earnings this week. Super, super weak. I mean, nothing looking good here, to say the least, right? Let's take a look at this on a 4-hour chart. We can go ahead and grab some overall demand down here. We do have a fair amount of supply. On this one, guys, because these contracts are fairly expensive, I would most likely just wait for them to announce and then see what you can do with it, right? But this is like catching a falling knife. We do have quite a bit of sellers here again, lower level time frames. We really need to get back above 188 and change, or at a minimum, make sure that you're getting above 169. Now, we're not that far off from that, right? Use this pivot high as possible resistance back to the upside. I did pick up some equity in Hood on Friday in the pre-market before it actually moved. So I got in at $75. It moved all the way up to 84. We'll kind of want to see, and I'm going to watch this. Again, this was a longer-term equity play, holding 81.60. If not, I think we're coming back down to 77, then back down to 71. But this potentially has a lot of movement to the upside. They also have earnings coming up this week, so I'm sure everything, Vlad, will be sunshine and rainbows, as it usually is. And I think just Bitcoin pulled this one to the downside. This was at $150 with price targets of 200, right? I mean, so look at this, 154, and I picked it up, I think, at like $75 and change. So again, sometimes I think when some of these things are just way overdone to the downside, could you get a potential reversal to at least stabilize and then move upwards? One I did not chart that I want to look at real quick, because it just crossed my mind, was Netflix, right? I am holding an equity position in Netflix. This one, I think I'm in at $92, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm down about 12% on it, give or take. Not worried. I think once they get all the noise done and over with this whole Paramount and the back and forth and craziness, that it'll catch some momentum. Trump did say on Friday that he was not going to interfere with the deal getting done. So that's why it actually caught a bit of a bounce right here off of the open, okay? And then they just kind of sold into it with just the weakness of technology. But where tech was down monumental on Friday, Netflix was not. So we'll see if we found a bottom. Again, I think I'm in at $91, give or take. So down about, 10 or 11%. I'm not concerned with that. Just, again, I think that the potential that these guys know what the hell they're doing. And, this was a stock that was at 134. So, again, they were already down here at this price level in, January of last year. We're down here in April of last year. Well, we're at this same price level. So I do think that this is probably a good longer-term hold, and just sit on it, right? And should do pretty well. So we'll update some of these price levels as the week moves forward. I don't really see a catalyst until the deal gets inked. Shareholders vote on this, and that's kind of what I'm watching for the week ahead. So if there's anything you'd like to see, shoot me an email. I'm happy to chart it. And with that, I will see you all for live trading tomorrow morning as we kick off another full week of excitement in the month of February. So happy Super Bowl Sunday, whoever you're rooting for. I hope they win. And I'm excited for the halftime show. So I'll see you all soon. Take care. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already done so, make sure you sign up for the free weekly Watchlist emails to get early access before the video drops here on YouTube. See you next time.